Howdy do, Buckaroos. Today's video is just going to be very simple. The end isn't nigh. It's not happening. The end's not happening. While it seems like the whole world around us is collapsing with wars and oil crises and America's literacy problem and the death of education and AI, the world's not ending. P-game. And if you think so, you might be stupid. I hope this doesn't violate the don't bully people thing with YouTube, but like, big dumb on you if you think world end, big dumb. Let me just hit you with it. My personal feed on YouTube is generally like Dark Souls lore, which I like, guitars, which I like, and then everything else is more or less social, I guess, like the impact of AI, the impact of this literacy crisis, why people can't read, recessions, all sorts of bad jazz, more or less. I mean, it's stuff of my interest, bad jazz. And then there's a little sliver of it that just focuses on creativity. There's a very few select content creators who just focus on creativity, and I really enjoy their work. And it got me thinking as I went through a bit of a mood swing for the past 2 weeks of like, man, everything sucks. I'm sad. I'm sleeping in super late, like 11 a.m., which for some of you, that's like normally when you get up. But like for me, I used to get up at like 4 a.m. So that's a drop for me. A big L on me. So I kind of got in this funk. So I did what I thought was best and just kind of stopped perusing YouTube like that and Instagram and social media. And after thunking a little bit, usually at the gym is where I do my deep thinking, I came to the conclusion the end isn't nigh. I need to quit being a little bitch, and I'm probably not the only person who struggled with this. So let's lock in. I'm going to break it down into 3 categories that I think are very popular and you are most likely aware of, especially if you come to a channel like mine, of people speaking into a camera and don't own editing software yet. I'm working on that part. Just be cool with me. What it breaks down to is AI, the literacy crisis, and mental health, I added. Now, when it comes to AI, generally what we're talking about is the theft of potential from human beings, or the imitation or the mockery, I would call it, the fake potential of AI, which we must discuss real quick. To clarify, AI is a system of a series of patterns that can easily recognize a pattern and replicate it. It cannot create on its own. Now, with that being stated, the other issue is the waste of resources. It's the water, it's the land, it's the electricity. It wastes resources, produces no money other than the stock market, but we'll ignore that. I might make a video later on. It's just a mess. But more or less, it's the theft of human potential and a waste of resources. Now onto the literacy issue in this nation. Well, if people are less literate and struggling to read, as I'm certain you've seen in news headlines or videos that come across your feed, clearly there's a death of education. It's the crisis at hand. It is the death of education. If you can't read, you can't learn. You can't learn traditionally in the way a school system is set up. I do want to clarify very quickly. I know that if you are illiterate, you are capable of learning, but most educational systems do require a degree of literacy to better yourself in that environment. And if you don't have that, it then leads to the death of education in the sense that you have been deprived of something. And this more or less leads on to, well, if we have the death of education with all these problems and less education, now we're running out of solutions to those problems. And then thirdly, for mental health, it seems to be more prevalent than ever. Anxiety, depression. We can talk about things like ADHD like I have, which I think technically falls under mental health. Autism. Everybody autistic nowadays, which I have some opinions on, but more or less we'll just accept it at face value for the sake of my argumentation. It's going to be philosophical here in a minute. But ultimately what you would interpret from that is, okay, things are intrinsically worse. Things are worse than they were before. And my personal opinion on this is when we take all 3 of these together, these 3 fairly popular issues, it's very easy to get bogged down. And at my crossroads, I would say all of this is fucking stupid because it's mostly solvable. Most of the issues I think we run into are mostly solvable. Big issues, easy solutions. Small issues, hard solutions, is how I view the world generally. And more or less, to simplify it, and for the relevance I need to have in a video, the two ways we would go about solving such of these issues is what I'm going to refer to as the Baby Keem house money method, get up and get off the couch, insert the rest of the song, and fitness, which we'll talk about fitness. But let's start with Baby Keem. Get up, get off the couch. What could you potentially do about this AI issue that is so growing? I'm going to think small, because it's about you getting up off the couch. Maybe don't use AI. Maybe talk to your friends, if you have them, online or in person, or your family, about AI. I have lots of old people in my family. Some of them need to know that, hey, some of this is just fake. And I know that I have a degree of internet literacy that allows me to go, all right, I can tell fake from real pretty well. But old people don't. Incredibly vulnerable to such things. And I could, at least for my family or those I interact with, be an advocate of their online literacy and safety. I could interact with my immediate community. Wild. I could leave my fucking couch and go talk to people. Crazy. And then I don't have to use AI to talk to people. You can also petition your city, which you should do, not your federal government, where you have the least amount of impact directly, your city or your state, to put whatever solution you want for AI. Memorandum, the county I live in is considering a memorandum on AI data centers because we consistently get droughts every fucking year and they take a lot of water. So there's already people acting. You're not alone in any of these issues. You are not alone. There are people probably in your community who are going, man, this sucks. I need to organize something. There are people more active than you right now. Go interact with them. By God, go see your community. Get up and get off the couch, Buckaroo. Now let's talk on to the literacy issue. Now this one is twofold. Hell, you don't even have to get up and get off the couch. I just think you should for your own health. Read a book or journal or both. Let's talk about it for a second. I am currently reading Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And I will tell you, it is high-key boring in the beginning. From like page 0 to like 200, high-key boring. It's only getting good now. I got like 400 pages left. And in it is just a lot of monologuing. From the main character, Raskolnikov. And he's just kind of deranged. He's not mentally cash money. Trust me, being mentally ill is not new. But he's sure not cash money about it. Running through it, though, and keeping track of his thoughts versus what is actually happening versus the dialogues of other characters means I need to have some degree of competence to go, oh, this person sounds high-key batshit. Main character. And I'm simplifying it greatly. It does say, like most quotes, Raskolnikov said, or Razumukhin said, or Zolov said. But you get what I mean here. There's a degree of delineation between these texts that I can tell who is speaking. Now let's take that. Let's go a little further. Let's say you yourself struggle with literacy. Find popular books that interest you. The reason I word it, or the reason I'm saying popular, things that are popular are not generally crazy complex. If you think, and God help you, but let's say you think Harry Potter is good and you like it. Read the books. Odds are they are written in a dialect that is easy and digestible. And I also know they're written at I think a high school reading level. So where most people struggle from 6th grade and below in terms of literacy, this is like the perfect bridge of you'll mostly get it. You may not get everything, but you'll mostly get it. A good introduction. work on that and build on that foundation. It sucks to do new things. I have ADHD. The moment something new gets hard, I don't want to do it. And then I kind of like stare at myself in the mirror and I'm like, top of the moment. Let's get this shit. You know, Kendrick Lamar ad-libs. No, Kendrick Lamar ad-libs may not work for you and you may have to do something else. But this is very solvable. And then let's say it's time for you to buy that book. You're like, all right, Robert, I'll go buy the book. I'll go buy a book. Well, now you're going to go interact with people to go buy a book. And when there are book people, they'll generally go, oh, you like this? I like this. This is similar. You like this? Me like this too. And me also like this. You like this? Kind of like cavemen. And now you're a member of some sort of community because you bought a fucking book. Crazy. Let's go into my next one, though. Mental health. When it comes to this one, this idea that because there's more mental health issues, that things are intrinsically worse, I don't necessarily believe that to be true. I have ADHD. My short-term memory is ass. I have to take notes for everything. Because the moment you stop talking and walk out of my sight, it's in one ear and been gone out the other. But I wouldn't necessarily say my life is worse. Yeah, I struggle to start new things. I hate when things are out of my personal schedule. But I would also say that as I journal and know myself better, hey, journaling, that thing I said on literacy, where now you have to be an active participant in the writing, which I didn't hit on, I should have. It kind of goes more into my ADHD thing, really. I think reflection on mental health, let me think of a good way to word this. A good reflection on the mental health crisis would be that just because it is more prevalent doesn't necessarily mean that things are intrinsically worse. As people deal with depression or PTSD or ADHD or autism, I think knowing yourself and therefore your strengths and your weaknesses, which for me I discovered through journaling, allow you to interact with your community and therefore your society a lot better. I think when you accept you have certain limitations. For those of you who don't know, because I'm on camera, I'm short, bro. I'm not reaching the top shelf. I have some limitations, and I just gotta accept that. Step stools are pretty cheap. I can live with that. But into the more mental side of things, I have bad short-term memory. It's just easier for me to write stuff down. So carry a pen and a pad, and I do that all the time. My truck is littered with pens and scrap paper. Like, accepting yourself, more or less, your limitations and your strengths. Like, when I lock in, I can lock in. Or when something is set in a pattern, I can multitask really well. But off the beat, I can't. Or if something's new, I can't. And if I'm learning, it has to be slow. Just accept those things. Don't fight them. You can try to improve in those categories. But I think a bit of self-acceptance is what it would be. And in this case, in my baby came, get up and get off the couch moment, right? I find walking to be a good time to reflect. I find journaling to be a good time to reflect. I really struggle to reflect when I'm working or if I'm busy, but giving myself that allotted time or going and doing something. Maybe you reflect better at a coffee shop or the library, or you just need a third space. Using that to your advantage, well, I think in general will just improve your life. And then I will say I am very aware that this mental health side is like the weakest part of it. But my more point here was that this is solvable. Like, we can improve upon it. Like mental health, no, I'm not saying we can like cure all mental diseases. But what I am saying is that the general, what's the word I want? The general status quo around mental health, especially as displayed in like social media or the news, tends to give it this air of things are constantly getting worse because mental health is getting worse. And I think because we can work on mental health, we can ergo work on the issues around it. And if you can work on something, it can be improved. It is not intrinsically something that is ultra corruptive. It can be not necessarily be remedied, but certainly improved upon. And now we got to go talk about fitness. You know, we're past the baby came, get up and get off the couch. Now we got to talk about fitness. And I think fitness is unfortunately always relegated to some sort of physical fitness, which is part of it. But I think of fitness in a little bit of a different way. Oh, my philosophy on fitness, if you will, which is what this video actually stems from, is physical, mental, and spiritual. So when it comes to physical, I think of momentum, things that are action-based. So get up and get off the couch. I'll keep referencing that as much as I can. But literally, go for a walk. Go to the gym. You play piano? Play piano. You play an instrument? Do it. You need to write? I like to write because I physically enjoy it. Do that. That is part of fitness, the physical aspect. Or let's say you're not a gym person. Okay, are we eating good? Are we brushing our teeth? Are we keeping up with our basic self-care maintenance, whatever that means to you? Whatever you feel ashamed about, that you're like, I should be doing that, you know? Maybe I should wipe my ass after I shit. If you're not doing that, don't tell me. But if you're not, do that, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be your Billy Badass at the gym or your Sam Hulick or C-Bum in the gym getting yoked. You can just take care of yourself. That is totally okay. Would probably put you ahead of other people even doing the bare minimum. Whatever that may be for you. If you feel you're overweight, something more active in terms of steps or cardio. If you're like skinny and you're like, I want to be muscular, lifting weights, there are options here. But you don't have to be some crazy hulking mass on the physical side. You could just be someone who is generally well fit, and then you're a beast at personal care. You make sure, you wash your hands every time you wipe your ass. You shower and bathe regularly. You brush your teeth. Man, you got the mouthwash. You got all sorts of fancy stuff. You make sure you wear deodorant. God willing, you make sure you wear deodorant. That part plays just as much as a physical aspect as hitting the gym. But the two are kind of linked because both ultimately will help your physical health. Now we move on to the mental side, which I would say is more of our discipline side, our value system. When it comes to things that are mental, so for me, I'll use an example. I feel bad when I don't play guitar, or I don't write, or I don't read, because I really like doing those things. And it's a bit of like a self-shame thing, or like maybe self-discipline, but I feel bad when I don't do those, so I feel a need to do those. But when I do those, I'm exceptionally happy, even if I'm not super great at them. That is because I value these things. They are a value to me. And I don't know if we necessarily get to decide our values or if we find them in life, but I do know it brings me joy to do those things. So when it comes to that, I need to be disciplined enough to go, all right, maybe stop doom scrolling, play guitar. Maybe stop doom scrolling, make a video. Maybe learn about editing software. But we'll hold off on that one. But more or less, it is if I feel bad for not doing it, it means something to me. And I need to put that on a higher pedestal than doom scrolling on YouTube or doom scrolling on Instagram and looking at memes or maybe just wasting time on TV. Maybe, you know what? I have a bunch of beautiful cast iron pans I can use. Maybe I should just cook a good damn meal. And to overcome that mental mountain of changing tasks and stop doing something that is easy entertainment, even if it's not really entertaining, it's just sometimes you're captivated by bullshit. Me too. I'm not above anybody. We are all equal here. Sometimes we're captivated by bullshit and we need to learn to let it go. And sometimes it feels real hard to do that. But that's part of our mental fitness. And then thirdly, I'm going to talk about spiritual fitness. Now, spiritual fitness to me is peace. Yep, peace. Whatever brings you peace. And more so, it is about the self or ego, however you want to think about it. I think the best spiritual fitness we can have is doing things that brings us peace. I feel good when I accomplish my goals. I feel really good when I can say, yep, went to the gym, played guitar, read, wrote. I made sure not to watch things that I know are going to make me upset or feel bad. Not that you shouldn't necessarily feel bad. You should face some friction in your life, but there are certain things you see where you feel upset or jealous, envious of other people or things they have. You want to covet their stuff. Well, when it comes to this, right? That's not necessarily creating peace. I think that's creating a friction in your soul. And then that energy you take other people can feel. And they view you as someone covetous or envious or just not at peace with yourself. And it can come out in your actions, which I'm working on myself too. Let me be very clear. I am not some pinnacle or model of like peace. I am not the Buddha. Nah, nothing like that. But what I will say is when you do have those moments of peace and you kind of feel light as a feather per se, I think they help make you a more rounded character when you have those brief moments of very clear thought. So when it comes to fitness overall, I think these address these issues when it comes to AI or the literacy issue or the mental health issue, is that ultimately these changes come down to you, one individual, not changing the world, but changing yourself and then becoming a community member to get up and get off the couch. It is the change in yourself and your interaction with the community, with my gabagool Italian hands, that will ultimately allow us to make the world better. So to summarize this video real quick, the end is not nigh, and if you think so, you need to work on yourself, and you need to become a community member. Toodles, y'all.